Hello and welcome to what I've been mentioning quite a few times in not only in the thread but in the videos. Here is the video on the maps. Specifically, a look at what at least this program, which I believe is Full Alert Editor. I'll double check and put it in the description of the video and the post, obviously. But the basic gist of this is to basically go through all the maps that we've seen. I'll probably be going through all the maps. I might leave out Aftermath and then just do a separate video on that. But basically to give you, the viewer, the just an idea as to how all the maps look, triggers, and so on and so forth. I'll try not to go too in depth with every map just because there are a lot of them. I don't want to basically make the video an entire bore fest. If it's not your thing, I'm sorry. This is just something that I kind of like looking at just to see, especially after having played these missions so many times just in my childhood and now redoing this LP, just to see like what stuff I've missed, or if there's anything that sort of would ever surprise me. I guess just starting right into it, since there's no real fanfare, please, if I might put in some music, but if you don't hear any in the background, you might want to put on some of your own, just because again it'll be a little dry. All that being said, I think this is it's obviously the first level for the Allies, and it kind of raises an interesting point right away. First being the 8 and 9 trigger. I don't know what those are for. I'm still kind of learning this program, just because there's a lot of stuff to basically look into. For example, there's the file, zoom, grid. Obviously, the certain items are more descriptive than others. So grid shows you the actual grid that the boxes show up on. Basically what the cells are, I would assume. You get zoom, which brings it into, I guess, a more classical view as to how everything should look like at the minimum resolution. Obviously, it's kind of hard to ever play like this on a bigger screen, and that's kind of why I like to zoom out and have a better view. There's other stuff such as viewing infantry, which is just stuff on our right. This basically allows us to place people or things in the map. I believe if I double click it'll add stuff, but I don't want to have to constantly have the save, do you want to save because you changed something, item box appear every time. So if you don't see that, or if you don't see me placing stuff, that's why. I don't necessarily know what specifically block does. Again, I've never used this program to create maps of my own. I kind of don't really build maps ever. AI shows you basically what the AI is supposed to do, and we can see that this is quite a bit more complicated than Tiberian Dawn. It should be pointed out that this is most likely due to, or more likely due to this program, just the way that it's all presented, rather than how it is in the actual text files. And that kind of causes an issue, specifically in the sense that it makes it harder for me to ever show all the different things. Before, you would have all your triggers or team types on the left, or at least the names, and on the right it would tell you every last thing that they are. In here, we have to click on every separate item to get them to display their relevant text, which again just makes it so that if I was to ever bother going through every map, we're looking at hundreds of screenshots, and honestly, it's just not as particularly interesting to me to present. And I'd never be able to do this to expand on the missions in a video format. There's a couple names that just are interesting. Dwight Dwight is actually one of the civilians. One of these two guys. I believe if I go out and right click, no. Blend. Position and cell is kind of interesting. You can actually, it actually shows you that there's 5 positions available. Do I not have? I think Dwight, if I remember correctly, Civilian 8 is what is labeled as Dwight. Dwight, Civilian 8, there we go. So Dwight is basically the sacrificial lamb. He's the guy who runs up and gets electrocuted. And then, I guess Phil? Yeah, Phil is our backup guy. I'm gonna look into the credits for the team just to see if Dwight and Phil might be random names or actual people from the company that they, I guess, decided to pick. And, yeah. Another interesting thing is you'll notice that there are owners, and owners are in different countries. I believe this was alluded to a very long time ago. And kind of one of the things I didn't want people to spoil. Just because it's not really relevant to the story. It comes up more in multiplayer, and I guess it's a good time to speak about it now. Specifically where England, Greece, you had the USSR on the Soviet side, I believe Ukraine. Let me see if there's actually... If I go into it, I can pick... There we go. So we can see that there's a bunch of different countries: Spain, Greece, USSR, England, Ukraine, Germany, France, Turkey, good guy, bad guy, neutral, special, and then the multiplayers. The basic idea is that each of these countries has a specific bonus to them. It could be that infantry cost less, tanks move faster, air units deal more damage, that sort of thing. And it's actually one of the things that really made your choices that much more unique if you played in multiplayer. If you picked France, or let's say Germany, we'll assume that they're good with tanks because, of course, it's Germany. But it's safe to assume that if you pick Germany, they'd be really good with their tanks, and therefore, if you preferred that sort of style in terms of your army composition, it's a team type that you would, or a country that you would choose to play, obviously. Sort of in the same vein as games like Age of Empires, where each civilization had a different, not only research structure, and what upgrades they could or could not get, but also special units. Unfortunately, Red Alert is just a little bit too early for that sort of thing, so it's mostly just changes to the overall strength or cost, value, etc. to your units, rather than completely changing up what you can and cannot build. It also comes back to the a thing I pointed out a long time ago, which was that there are no upgrades in this game. It's very unlike, say, StarCraft or, again, Age of Empires, where those games do have those things. Getting back to the mission itself, we can see that Einstein is a specific character. He's got his own trigger, so just looking at this thing, it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around. There's Trigger, which is effectively what happens if he dies, he triggers this. Or at least that's what I assume, because ELOS, it sounds like a loss. Enemy loss or something along those lines. Again, you kind of have to decode these yourself when you're looking at a file like this without doing any like prior investigation, like me, because I'm dumb like that sometimes. Anyways, we also have Helicopter, which is it comes in on 0, or its orders is to move to waypoint 23, 24. Goes to 24, lands, and then once it has Einstein 3, which is a linked thing, it goes off map. Which I'm not sure if 2... I guess line 2 is literally just second line, like all the way here. Anyways, I can't remember if I have my mouse show up on screen, so if it doesn't, I apologize. I'll try to vocalize what I'm looking at more specifically. Zoomed out's going to help out for the bigger maps. So another thing I can do is I can click on there's a mini map on the top right. You can click on that to move your view around, which again is going to be very helpful and really goes to show just how small maps can be and how large they can be. As far as I understand it, the entire black area in that mini map can be used. There's no limitation to how what constraints you put on the map size other than that total area. So, again, this map is very self-explanatory. We had to take Tanya, who comes in off screen, goes down, destroys this tech center. Einstein shows up. Technically, Einstein, you don't have to destroy the tech center. I remember that being a thing back in my childhood, but if you kill, I think they're all DUG. These are all the 3 units here with the dog. Those move up, so those are a waypoint group. And then the 2 guys in front of the tech center are Einstein triggers. So once they're dead, then Einstein comes out, then you can go save him. Speaking of which, we can look at all the different triggers, and these are the ones specifically associated with stuff such as Einstein. It's a little tough to see just because I'm zoomed out, but if you look at Einstein 2, you can see that Einstein 2, 3, 4, etc. You can see that that's what has him basically pop out. Again, there's Einstein lose, so if he dies, then, that's what it was. E is Einstein, LOS, loss. Anyways, so if Einstein dies, loser is determined to be Greece, which is the player, and text trigger, blah, blah, blah. So that's the text that shows up at the top left of the screen when you're playing. Team, Einstein, and triggers Einstein 2. So, anyways, you can only lose if Einstein 2 has started, because if Einstein isn't a character on the map, he cannot die, etc. Thing that kind of sucks because I don't know how to actually search it. Again, you're looking at all the triggers. It's hard for me to be able to know exactly what goes where sometimes. Hey, there's Create Team Dwight. Basically, I don't know where these 2 triggers are supposed to show up. I thought I saw a trigger 9 for a waypoint, but oh well. Suffice to say, if you do have a copy of CNC Net, their version of Red Alert, you can easily plop in the file for, I'm pretty sure it's full alert. I don't think there's a button. I'm trying not to show a file because there's a thing in there that, we'll have already seen by now, but, for people who might have skipped ahead, I try not to show stuff off. So here's, there we go, there's another thing that's kind of important. House properties, so this is all the different nations. So just kind of what the setup is and who their allies are supposed to be. So technically USSR, Ukraine, I believe Turkey is also a Soviet group for whatever reason. Probably just because of where they are, in terms of East versus West. Excuse me, thirsty there. So it basically tells you like who you can and cannot play as, or what you can set up for it, and so on. Yeah, like here it shows like I believe this is HP. Could be wrong though. Anyways, we'll cancel that. We'll go to the basic. So the basic just basically gives you some extra filler, kind of like the overview of what the map is supposed to be about, in the sense that you have the title of the map, which unfortunately doesn't show up in like there's no like official, you started the map and this is what it's called. All these names are kind of just taken from the files. from the map files. They're not listed anywhere else. I don't believe the walkthroughs ever mention names. So that's kind of sucks. But briefing is basically the cutscene at the start. So if this is empty, it's just not available. You can change the briefings if you want. So you can have the game start up with the end of the Soviet campaign if you ever want to. It makes no sense, but hey, it's an option. Sadly, these aren't in alphabetical order, so it kind of makes it hard to find certain things. If you're building your own maps, that is. If you win, this is the basic. This is a cutscene at the end. Again, you can see you can make some options basically the same, so you can end with a briefing and so on. It's never really any point to it, but it's an option. Same thing, if you lose, you can make a thing play. I'm not quite sure what the action is supposed to be. It clearly shows that these are videos. Again, we see A, gun, MiG, etc. It might be the video after the briefing. That's what makes the most sense to me. To carry over, so that's if there's anything that should carry over to the next map or the next appropriate map, as we saw with Allied Mission 2 and 4, which we'll see once we get to those triggers, those maps. Inherit, I believe, is when there's stuff on the map for you to inherit. Timer inherit, I'm not sure. And if game is just if it's the final mission in a campaign, I believe. Because or else I believe it would just tell it to go back to mission 1. Civ Evac is Civ Evac theme. So if there's supposed to be a specific song for this. Otherwise, I believe it just defaults to whatever the default the first tune is. And if you have it on shuffle, it'll pick whatever. Carryover money, same thing. With the above spy plane, obviously if we have a spy plane or if we want to, we'd have that. I'm not sure what time only is. I believe that's an extra thing. Skip score is what we saw with relations to video 10 and 11, I believe it was, in the Allied campaign. The silos and going underneath. Truck crate, obviously if the trucks start or should have crates. Or I think it's just if they spawn on the map. That might be it. Percent, I have absolutely no clue what percent is. And fill silos, I believe, is if there's silos on the map, if they should start full. For example, here, this silo is not. And again, we have the nation. So what nation the player should play as. So that's a basic overview of the basic stuff. There's rules, so... Rules any, Riddler mix. So here we have the rules any file. Basically shows everything that you can modify. So Rocket Soldier, you can see primary is Red Eye. That's the name of the rocket. The first rocket. I believe primary is against ground targets. Secondary is against air targets. Could be wrong, but that's the basic gist of it. Strength, I believe it's HP, armor, none, self-explanatory. Tech level, so barracks is tech level 2. Sight is how far it sees. Speed, how fast it moves. Owner, so who can build them. Cost, obvious. Points, it's every time you kill one of them, it's worth 10 points. And double owned, I believe, is a multiplayer trigger, so that if you're playing multiplayer, a Soviet player is also allowed to play build the Rocket Soldier. You'll see other stuff. So like say the Rifle Soldier, the owner is a default Allies and Soviets, so both sides can build them. The way that's written actually makes it sound like everybody is the Allies except the Soviets. So Turkey and Ukraine are also allies, but anyways. There's a couple of other triggers here. Honestly, if you're interested, I heavily suggest you look into it. More or less just because this kind of shows just how easy you can make a very complex game. As long as you have the appropriate triggers and rules definitions, you can make a game that has a lot of depth to it without it looking like it from an outside point of view. The same thing applies to Paradox Interactive games. Please give me money. I'm shouting you guys out. Hearts of Iron 4, or Hearts of Iron series, Europa, Crusader Kings, etc. If you look into those games, they're all text file based. There's obviously sections for bitmaps for the various icons and such. But the general rules are all written in text format, which makes them incredibly easy to break if you so choose. But also look into and see how a game that is as vastly complex as those, how specifically they're coded and such. Anyways, mix, I believe, is just to look into the various mix files. Yeah, there we go. Red Alert Editor, I think is just what it's called. Anyways, there's some mix files. These are basically the files that contain all the information. So General Mix has all the general files. Snow has the snow template. Temperate has the temperate, etc. We're not going to go into those because whatever. And documents are just stuff to kind of get you started. So tutorial shows you how to build like a basic map, examples, etc. Obviously it increments just as much as it gets harder. So, you need a good example, go to example 1, and then kind of work your way up. Or down, I guess, whatever. Anyways, that's pretty much it for map 1. So we'll head on to map 2, which is called 5 to 1. We've already seen this map, obviously. Actually, we'll have seen all the maps except the variants. So this one isn't a variant, and it's pretty self-explanatory. We start off with a very small amount of units. Heavy use of barrels, which is interesting. I know somebody complained about that. Hopefully this video will show that it's not maybe quite so prevalent. Anyways, let's see if there's anything interesting here. Team types, attacks, some reinforcement groups. I guess these are called like back attacks, because these would, okay, never mind. So it's all right. Where does that hunts? Move to waypoint 10. I have no clue where waypoint 10 is. I think waypoint 10 is right underneath that main group. I think because you can have multiple triggers on the same cell, which kind of confuses things at times. But I believe it's supposed to be, it's obviously an attack. There's obviously 2 of them. There's also south attack. I would assume south attack, but anyways. I kind of wonder if this is an actual option. If I go edit. Hey, what do you know? It is. I obviously didn't read this the last time I saw this. Pretty interesting that the AI is there's something in here for safest, possibly longer route. Interesting. Waypoint 13 seems to be, okay, yeah, right in the middle. So, anyways, trucks obviously come in, they go to, can I make this smaller? There we go. Perfect. So we can see that they go from the first order is moved to waypoint 1, then they move to waypoint 2, and then they make their way all the way to the bottom of the map. Oops. Triggers, there's quite a few triggers. We're, again, try not to go over everything. Suffice to say, convoy, there's a countdown, there's a destroy, so buildings kind of, if all the buildings are destroyed, it'll trigger the hunt. It'll also trigger the automatic countdown. So there's 2 triggers. one for each thing. Jeeps, so that's all our reinforcement groups. We have 2 lose conditions, one being the truck and one if we just lose everything. So reinforcement groups again. This reveals location. Trip, not sure. Trucks, text. So again, as time progresses, we get a text that shows up at the top left, and then some win conditions. Not too much to really talk about this mission, just because it is fairly bare bones. If we go into the basic, there we go. We can also see that, hey, it says to carry over. So, one of the rare times that we'll ever see this ever marked as yes, sadly. But interesting nonetheless. Oops. And we have the first Tanya mission. So this is the first variant. Obviously, this is the one that we saw in the campaign that I played. Thirsty once more. And we can see that there's a shit ton of barrels here. And I guess honestly, I'll just try to cut this down as much as possible, just to go as quickly as possible. You can see where all the different triggers are. Some of them are actually, it's actually neat because they're actually named, so it gives you a better idea as to how the maps are actually supposed to progress. So for instance, I don't know why the 98 is there, but regardless, if Tanya dies, it's a loss. That's why she's got that little text there. Hey, I can just drag a guy. Anyways, if we move over to this area, we can see that the water trigger spawns. That's why there's the amphibious lander shows up. I'm hating my phone all of a sudden. Alright, next thing we have is the ACRT, which I'm not 100% sure what it's supposed to be. The reveal is that this area, like the little base here, if this is destroyed, I believe this spawns, right, it's a hunt. So when the flamethrower tower is destroyed, these guys go after these. Scar, I have no clue, like, other than if it's scare, so they're supposed to shoot and then these guys will show up. But paratroopers, if you walk over, it would have been nice if walking to the left of the trees didn't cause the trigger, but hey, whatever. And all the bridges, it's actually interesting that one bridge doesn't actually have a trigger on it. I assume it's still part of the entire scenario objective, but it might not be because it's seen as a redundant one. I'm not sure. Same thing with the bottom right one here. I don't know why that one has a trigger as opposed to the other one, but anyways. It should also be noted that we saw this, the outlines of the base, but we never actually got into it. I'm actually super curious as to what it might stand for. So what does this trigger? So if you kill all the power plants, it destroys the command structure. But what is that supposed to do? Not sure where FDRP is supposed to come from. Maybe there's this barrel here that's called RP, which is probably the same thing. Just couldn't fit on it or something. Anyways, interesting nonetheless. Water, obviously we saw that. Traps. That looks like traps. I'm going to say that's traps. Anyways, interesting. Sad that it's going to be one of those things where you kind of have to eke out, or I kind of have to eke out purpose, just because, I'm not, it's hard being very fluent in map creation, for me anyways. And we've got the reversed map. So this is what we did not see. I played this quite a few times as a kid. Map is actually incredibly different, which is another reason why these sorts of maps or these variants are actually really nice. I think anybody can attest to it that these are super interesting to see these different things. There's also a hell of a lot more triggers on this. Specifically, there's a reveal trigger, and then there's a medic trigger, which I believe comes out of this building. There's another reveal trigger. There's actually two of them. If you look closely, if I zoom in here, we'll see that there's a reveal 2 and a reveal 4. So those things exist. If you choose not to go up onto the bridge and just cross through the waterway, you're revealed the same two things anyway, so you can't miss anything. If you go too far, you get a delete 2. I wonder what delete 2 is. Destroy trigger personnel, which destroys a reinforcement team. There's a detonate 8. Triggers jihad. That's good old days. So I guess if you get close enough, this jeep goes into here and blows itself up. That's going to be my guess. Or maybe it blows up at like here or something. Anyways. Oh, okay. No, never mind. So I think it goes here and then blows up into this. That makes a lot more sense. Help. There's a guy with help on there. Yeah. So again, this is sort of the problem. Is like I can look at this and go, "Oh, destroy all teams," and I know that FSQD, so it destroys. It's supposed to be creating a team, and then these guys are linked. These guys will sometimes be linked to a trigger. God damn it. And we can see, like, he's got the trigger help, he's sticky, so basically he's gonna try and stay around there. Actually, that's another thing I never really mentioned. Missions, this basically, like, it gives the AI an idea as to what they're supposed to do. So, ambush is supposed to wait until unit gets very close or shoots at them first. That's how you have units behind trees. Area guard is kind of like it's not a patrol specifically, it's more of like, actually it's weird that there's not an actual patrol. Area guard is sort of, they can, if enemy unit advances within a certain distance, it'll attack it, but then it'll move back to its original position. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Attack, obviously, fairly, man, I'm losing all my words here. Easy to understand that one. Capture, which is, I want to say just capture buildings, but, right, it's a trigger for what you need to do. So when you have to capture a building. Construction, what it's supposed to build. I don't think we'll see it for a little bit, but some buildings will appear like ghostly. And that's usually what the construction trigger has, I believe. Enter, so when you're entering a building or other structure. Guard is the same thing as area guard, except that I don't believe they move. Harmless is they don't shoot. Harvest, self-explanatory. Hunt, obviously same. Missile, I think, is for where it's going to send nukes. I could be wrong on that one. Move. Q-move is quick move, I believe. So just like run instead of like the slow move. Repair, rescue, retreat. Fairly easy to to remember. Return, sabotage, which is just blowing stuff up. Selling, so obvious. Sleep is where it, I believe, if I understand it correctly, sleep is that a unit will not wake up unless given a trigger that says otherwise. So if you ever see a unit that just doesn't do anything, even when it's being shot, that's under sleep. I believe it's different from harmless, where harmless just won't attack but will move. Sleep knocks that all out. Sticky is that a unit can kind of like wander, but will always go back to the same spot. Like if it kind of just like moves a little bit, it'll move back. Stop is obvious, and unload is the same thing. Anyways, We'll zoom out here, give a better idea as to what the actual map looks like. Again, there's a huge difference between the two maps. It's actually pretty neat. There is some triggers for water here, which I don't think I'll... Not quite sure what those would be for, other than like maybe boats show up on bottom right, and then you can blow up the base if you want. Save the medic. And the objective obviously is at the top left, which is kind of the thing I always did anyways. I would just beeline for the top left. You can destroy the barracks if you want, but the more important part is obviously the bridges. Interesting that some of the oil derricks actually have triggers. I wonder if they drop like HP or something. Guess I could check. God damn it. This stupid... Actually called oil pumps. Oh well. Anyways. Next map. 10-1, which is the continuation. I'm gonna try and like just power through these now. We can see it's bare bones. It's supposed to carry over, so stuff that you have built will show up. Let's see what the basic shows. Ah, there you go. So if there's a carryover, the next mission is to inherit, and that's what gains. That's what you're supposed to get for the next. So basically, a 2 carryover is the first mission, and then however far into the campaign you go, the 2 inherit will be the acceptance of the 2 carryover end state. Makes sense. Not much to really talk about so far. This is like the other than the mission 2. This is the only other mission that we've been able to harvest so far. Everything seems pretty straightforward, aside from a decided lack of wells or the mine entrances. And the base is rather simple, but you know, for mission 4, that should be expected. Tanya's Tale. This is the first real divergence between all the different types of maps. I believe this is the one I played the most. You start at the top left. The dogs move away. You make your way down to the right. You can either infiltrate through one of the 2 sides. I guess technically the water as well, if this is a passable location. And that's obviously if the dogs are not in sight. You get into the war factory. The truck drives down. And instead of going to the right, it makes its way to the left, and then even further, and then eventually you get Tanya. And then Tanya you have a little bit more leeway in this mission, I find. More specifically just because, one, Tanya starts very near to a major Soviet base, rather than the mission that we played on, or that I played on, with the incredibly long bridge. It makes it really nice because you can just go out and destroy all the power, which I don't think is enough to knock out these 2 Tesla coils. But if you knock out all this power and, more importantly, the construction yard, that should definitely help you out with taking out the rest of the base. Because, well, there's not much else left there. Technically, I guess you could do something where you destroy these flamethrower towers in the middle, and then work your way to these 4 power plants. But, you know, tangling with tanks and VTUs is probably not a good idea. It will be very similar to this next mission, which is the one we actually played on. You can tell because we start... Well, one, there's the giant... I don't know why I'm using those things. The giant bridge on the right. And we've got the 2 tanks guarding and the little base here. Actually, very interesting to see that just with like the difference, the giant bridge and then has 2 tanks, so you can't really take Tanya. And while you could destroy these 2 flamethrower towers, or at least it suggests you could with the barrels, probably no way that you're ever going to get to the command center or the construction yard, I should say, to destroy that and effectively put the enemy team on a timer. Another thing that I will try to look for is little things I might have missed. Like if we see a crate, or if I see a crate anywhere, etc. Like that'll be pretty interesting to say the least. I'll also try to do like a pan over to every part of the map, just because there's some parts we never got to see, which again suck. And here's the third mission. I think this is the one I played the least, maybe like once. I can't even remember ever playing this one. Very, very different actually from the other two. The action being almost all north-south, and honestly a very choke point heavy map. There's not only a choke point at the top entrance and the side entrance to the base, but even just then the other checkpoint with regards to the refinery, and going obviously towards the special building where Tanya is. This is actually a really good opportunity to show off the ghost building, as I was talking about. These two buildings are set to be built, and I don't believe I can actually... Oh, there we go. So, I guess this is the priority that the AI is assigned to it, where it's supposed to build it specifically, and we can see that there's enough space for both of them. I was kind of expecting that there might be some more info on that little like mini screen, but alas, it's not the case. Kind of seems weird to have this submarine pen, because that's obviously not going to do anything. Whereas in at least the previous mission, you might be able to build a submarine and then destroy the bridge so nobody could go attack Tanya if you wanted to not evacuate her. But whatever. A lot of area to also attack the AI if they ever mine out their own area, which is going to happen really fast with 2 harvesters. And if they have to go to the left, which is probably what I would harvest last, just to get the AI to send people there, and then an easy choke point them. Oops. Son of a... Really? See, this is the problem with, I don't know why it's telling me... Oh, do I have to close all these? Man, that's dumb. Okay, sorry, I hate this. I hate a map or a thing that does this. Here's another map that we never got to see. The idea is that we had to go destroy or infiltrate the command center or the tech center, and then destroy them. Destroy the thing for the Iron Curtain, I believe it was. Map is very different from the other one, obviously, but fairly straightforward. You get some units, and then the major idea is to destroy this little group. I think you're supposed to infiltrate at least the radar dome. But basically, there's at least a lot of space for you to develop. Another thing that's rather nice is that if the AI is supposed to send anything after you, I forget. They've only got really 2 different spots. There's the extreme south, and then it's got a share between these 2, which if you just have a group of 3 or 4 units that can bounce between the 2, it's rather easy to defend. At the same token, it's actually kind of hard to attack the enemy base, although I guess there's always the top area if you want, especially if you don't want to go up against Tesla Coil. But I don't think you actually... We don't get destroyers yet, so you could always park a couple gunboats and then just destroy these 3 power plants, and you should be fine. Tech centers take a lot of power, so that, or at least a relatively good amount of power. So that these 3 plus the Tesla Coil should be enough to power it down. We've also got the one we actually played on. So we can see the bigger base, a lot more frontage for the enemy to come from just about anywhere. We got the extreme southeast. Most of the northern side, northeast at least specifically, is free and clear. And we've seen the enemy able to drop some guys near our own start and then come up from behind. Really dastardly stuff, actually. There's, I believe, one more advanced power plant on this map, but also one more Tesla Coil, so it kind of makes sense. Never dropped anything on the far west, which I guess is a missed opportunity, but honestly, it doesn't really seem like a good area. You don't get anywhere, you have close access to the war factory if you want to, but most of the stuff is really good on this eastern side. Actually, there's 2 Tesla Coils more, but anyways. Yeah, it seems better to just drop on the eastern side if you can get through these Tesla coils. Alright, I gotta remember to like close them at some point. Next one, Sunken Treasure. This is a fairly like we played this one. I forget if there's a variant on this one. Fairly straightforward. I think the only thing that really screws me over every time I play this is I forget about this Tesla coil on the island. Kind of a jerk move, but hey, you get destroyers this map, so it kind of makes up for it, I guess. Also, again, going back to the whole choke point thing, a lot of natural choke points here, so you kind of have to. You might want to get more stronger units rather than more units just in general. It's also kind of hard to ever really take out the enemy without being able to destroy these power plants, advanced power plants. Unfortunately for me, I never actually put any artillery on this cliff, and I didn't realize that they would most likely be able to hit. That should definitely be within the range. So, oh right, here's the chronosphere. First defense of the chronosphere. Actually, fairly interesting that there's anything up here. I guess there might be an impetus to ever to destroy these trees. I guess maybe on like a harder difficulty, it destroys the trees and then parks some V2s up here. If that's actually the thinking, that's awesome. I kind of wish that the AI actually did that, even if it meant like I might lose or whatever. That's actually super cool. Oh, obviously, I say that now, but like if I was playing that, I'd be super pissed. Um, oops. I hate when I do this. I just I want to know what you're all about. Let me know what you're all about. Bonus. All right, so that's supposed to be trigger bonus. Let's see what trigger bonus is. It's supposed to create a team called bonus. Okay. What is bonus? Alright, so this never spawned then. Or maybe it spawned at a. Wait, what was the. Shit. Bonus. Vehicles, buildings, anything. Where's that supposed to spawn from? Waypoint 94. Waypoint 94. Waypoint 94. I can't tell if this is like. If you destroy that, you get them. Waypoint 94. Okay, so if hold on here. Bonus. Entered by Greece. So if you enter it with an engineer, the only thing I can think of, you spawn 4 longbows. But I don't know why these are I guess Germany is the building that's associated to. So 4 longbows are supposed to come in and attack stuff. I wonder if that's like a constant thing. That kind of bugs me that never actually worked. Like, I'm pretty sure I've captured it at least 3 times in my lifetime. Never worked. Whatever if that trigger is supposed to actually be longbows, it's never worked. And then we can see the rather interesting base. It's surprising that they actually have these trees here to block it. They also get super quick access to a lot of gems. That's probably why or how the AI is able to like constantly build those teams, unless they get them for free. But I'm not gonna pretend that's the case. And then obviously there's a trigger on the chronosphere, which is most likely a destroy. Yeah, if it's a loss condition. Damn it. See, this is the problem with me, like on map editors. I keep mucking it up this way. And delete and backspace don't do anything. So let's just close the scenario. Let's pretend I didn't muck that up. Oh, and here's the variant, which is I don't think I ever played this one. Ever in my life. Again, there seems to be the same waypoint / destroy trees, but there's no end waypoint, so that's kind of interesting, at least a little bit. Man, I need to just I wish I could just not click on anything. Clear, but clear. There we go. All right. Excuse me while I fiddle around with these useless things for no reason. Yeah, I forgot, if the tech center also is destroyed, that also counts as a loss, which is nice. Bunch of civilians here. I don't know why it says 29 plus. Although it is sellable, which is interesting, I guess. And this is probably going to be the same sort of bonus trigger. I don't know why it says 29 plus. Global set 29. Sound buildings. Sure. I don't understand what this is. Oh, okay. So after a certain amount of time. So after a certain amount of time, or I guess if you enter it, it does global set 29, which I can only imagine might be this, the waypoint. You're also given a shitload more units, I think, in this. At least 2 more tanks, I think. Probably against more stuff, but anyways, it's actually interesting because it feels like there's a lot less for in terms of the player just going out and just destroying a refinery or a harvester, and then you kind of just win by default. I feel like this map I could actually beat the AI on. 29 plus is also over here, but I don't know what this trigger is all about. I guess if you go over this trigger, it activates civilians that you have to transport here to then deploy helicopters that will attack stuff. I don't know. Again, this is a rather confusing. Actually, this is. Yeah, there's an MCV trigger, because I was gonna say there's nothing to build here. You don't even get a barracks, which is different from the last map. Anyways, again, this is why I do this. I actually like seeing that stupid stuff like this special building that may or may not actually trigger helicopters to come save your bacon, which I actually really wish was a thing. This map I played on, I don't think there's anything for me to really talk about. A bunch of triggers, just if, so when you get your spy into the command center, it gets out, I can't remember the guy's name, the atomic guy. Anyways, the atomic, strategist comes out. And then, I guess if you get him past here, he triggers all the dogs to hunt after him. Same thing on this side, actually on all of them. If the spy enters these cells, I guess it triggers the dogs, or at least the AI to search for it. And hunting is if the Soviet guy that touches those, it triggers an exit. And you can't be sneaky. You can't just say, "Oh, I'll just use my cruiser to destroy a wall and walk around." No, it doesn't let you. Bunch of Soviet subs have triggers on them, which is interesting. But otherwise, the map is a fairly basic. Not much to really say other than that. There's not a lot of flavor, I feel, on this map, but it is rather nice, at least in the northeast portion of it. I find this area is just too big. But anyways. The one we did not play is, sadly, I don't recall what I usually played on as a kid. I think I hate this map more, though. 2 mine entrances, east and west, but the way to get to the base, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's a mirror image from the last map. Like, if imagine both these maps side by side. But yeah, I don't know. This one does not really speak to me. Would probably actually be a lot harder to play this one because your cruisers probably wouldn't have. I mean, you'd probably be able to get the outer limits, I guess. A lot of dogs, as always. Anyways, close that. Let's go to the next one. Suspicion. So this is, again, a map. If we check the basic, we should see... Wow, there is no carryover. But it does have the skip score. That's right, we don't carry over because there's nothing to carry over. But we do see skip score. So that's why there was no credits after the fact. Also, full silos was on yes. And we don't see any silos. So that's... I don't know what to make of that. In the speedrun video that somebody showed, you can actually get up here. You can go here right off the bat, and then effectively just destroy a line of trees, and then make your way into FOR 3. Which, if I'm correct, is one of the triggers that actually, like, it starts the countdown or whatever. 1 Tesla coil is obviously the only thing to really worry about. And then the anti-personnel mines that are literally everywhere. Literally everywhere. Again, somehow I managed to cheese this by effectively just starting my base over on the right side here. It's actually kind of funny. Yeah, there's not... other than, I guess, the AI going for these gems really early, it'll probably always prioritize these fields on the right just because they're closer to the refineries. It's actually pretty interesting. Can't imagine what the hell these triggers are. Why are these 3 trees... Why do these trees have triggers on them? PDRP. What? So... I'm not sure if this is like if you enter specifically these hexes or these cells, it'll do that. So if you destroyed these trees and then drove in there, it would drop paratroopers? But on what? I guess just those paradrop. Para 1 and Para 2. Like, obviously. But where do those guys drop? Para 1, Para 2. Waypoint 3 and... Attack waypoint 3, attack waypoint 5. So if you try to break through the middle, it spawns a paratrooper on the right here and on the top left. That's strange. Alright. Same thing with this trigger here. If you destroy this tree, I guess, and enter in here, it'll trigger Harvester 1, which I assume is just like the AI production begins. So if you actually... so you try to be sneaky and you destroy this tree to go around, for what purpose I have no clue, it actually activates the harvester so that they start producing. Same thing with the left over here. Neat. Also strange that there's a lot of barrels up here, and you don't really do much with these. But yeah, all right. Man, we're only 10 missions and technically 11. Okay. So I always wondered. I never actually investigated, quote unquote, an inside mission. That actually makes a lot of sense how they get power in. I just figured that there might have been like a trigger that says like, oh, buildings don't cost power or something, but they just build them off map in areas you would never be able to see. I'm not really going to expand too much on these ones. They're usually way more trigger based, so I mean, it's just means more looking into menus and menus and menus. Seems fairly straightforward, though. I don't think there's anything that we missed. I didn't realize this room had so many guys in it, though. Kind of interested to see what Vike is, though. That's the only... I'm gonna... Oh, Yike. Is it Vike or Yike? Yike. Destroyed by anybody, create team Yike. So I guess if you kill certain units, it'll... AI will use a team of 7 rifle infantry to hunt for you. So if you kill these guys, I guess... Oh, and these guys. I guess 7 of these guys just decide to go after you. Interesting. Uh, 11A, we saw this map. This was the prepare the way for the Allied convoy. Really not much to say about this one. We can see that the AI is actually supposed to build a shit ton of stuff on the right side, but never actually did so. And the only thing I'm going to check is I want to see what the triggers, if there are any triggers, or if something like messed up zone. Oh, okay, yeah. So because I never actually So because I never actually brought an MCV from one side to the next, the AI just never got its trigger to start building a base. So it just sat there. That's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna probably say that a lot. I like looking at internals, even if I never actually pay attention to them, or never go in depth into them, I should say. I don't think I ever played this mission. This is another one of those, like, I always pick the other option. And I'd like to just point out, like, that's kind of very subconscious. And what I mean by that is that, as a kid, I was never preoccupied with what option I picked. I would just pick, like, whatever country or, like, option appealed to me. But there's no strategy there. It's literally just like, oh, I'll pick the top option or something. So some of these maps, sadly, I just never actually played. This one's actually this is interesting because in this variant, the Tesla coils are actually separate. They're a separate group. I would have figured it would have been like the previous mission where they're all one team. Yeah. Anyways, not much else to really say. Like, again, there's the same zone trigger, so if you ever move over to the right side of the map, which actually has some, like, easily defensible minerals, that's about it. Nothing else really good there. And I guess on the flip side, the west side has absolutely no ore mines, so you either have to bust your ass to get through this base real quick, or go to the east side to actually be able to get long-term economy. Which is actually interesting that they would, like, make that subconscious choice. Like, I would have never thought about that as a design decision beforehand. This is the first one where we actually, or at least I believe it's the first one we actually see the Iron Curtain in action. We can see that the Allied cruiser goes in, destroys a bunch of stuff, and then leaves off map, which sucks. It would have been cool if that, like, had stuck around, but probably would have been a liability, as we saw with how accurate or inaccurate cruisers can actually be. Apparently, all these power plants, actually every power plant is built off of this tech center. Or is related to the tech center. So This will explain. This will explain why entered by grace, destroyed by anybody. So if you do either of these two things, because I never sent a spy, I sent it into the other one. Destroyed by anybody, global set 2. Destroy attached buildings, triggers. Oh, the command center. Command center. First trigger. So if you kill the command center, it just destroys 6 buildings for free. Huh. I don't think that has enough effect on this base, though, because while there are 4 Tesla coils and an iron curtain, there's, 8? Yeah, 8 advanced power plants. There's more than enough, especially with 2 other small ones. More than enough that's effectively 9. More than enough to do anything. Although, interesting to see that if you destroy the command center, I guess that also gives them, either triggers the nuke or gives them a nuke. Okay, so this is even more broken. So, if you attack the command center, it adds a nuke to the Soviet arsenal. But if you destroy the nuclear silo, it destroys the trigger nuke. But I guess if you... So I guess if I destroy it first, it doesn't ever get the nuke. But if I destroy the command center, then it gets the nuke. And then regardless of if I destroy that, it'll use it. Because, I should have... I should not have been subject of a nuke after whatever amount of time period happened. That was just weird. Alright, next scenario. Focused blast. Again, this is like another thing where it's like, it doesn't really... Nothing really tells you that would actually be the name of the scenario. You just have to find it in the files. Again, rather interesting that they have crates. Kind of wish I didn't overwrite it and I would be able to find out what's inside, but apparently right-clicking, middle-clicking, nothing really works. Self-explanatory, though. There's the W crates, which is money, and then the SC crates, which is health. So you can kind of easily distinguish the two. And then WW, which I believe is just like water or weapon crates, but we'll see these later. That's not too important. Again, interesting that there's red power plants and brown. I'm going to assume those are brown, which I assume is for the flamethrower. Could be wrong on that, but the flamethrower I think is the only thing that had a different power, different color. So, and then these two areas, I believe, are for reinforcements, which I actually kind of weird because I would have. This doesn't look like it's aligned, so I wonder if that causes an issue or not. I guess, let's see team types. Do I have anything that comes in on 50? I don't think so. I guess the other way to look at it would be if it moves to waypoint 1 or 0, but I didn't see that either. Let's take grid off. Wow. Okay. So again, this is why I don't I don't ever do all these individually. Just this would be way too crazy. A lot of traps, a lot of text to tell you how much time is left, or you've done so and so objective. All right. No Remorse, which is the final level in the Allied campaign. Again, a very self-explanatory map, just because we spent so much time on it. Single base. If you move up, it'll reveal this area. If you go further, it sends a couple guys or whatever to help, which I think is the thing, or it might be for the Chinook. Anyways, you destroy this. blah, blah, blah. We can see that the truck starts south, which is what we saw. Grenadier up here is set to destroy the barrels. Other than that, there's nothing really hidden. I mean, not really possible. This is another map that, because of the fact that we're the Allies, we have the tech center, and the tech center gives us the spy satellite. So other than all of these mines, you couldn't really see anything else. It's interesting that anti-personnel mines, and I assume anti-tank mines as well, actually have health. There's nothing. They all die in one hit, so. And you wouldn't think so, but like if you ever attack ground, you can destroy mines, and yeah, it just never really comes up. Oh, I never really noticed that they actually named all these buildings. Hans and Gretel's, of course. Hewitt's Manor, not really sure. Richter's house. Gretchen's house. The barn. Damon's pub. Fran's house. Music factory, okay. Toy makers. Ludwig's house. Haystack. Interesting that they would name them these. Alright. So that's it for the Allied video. I'm pretty sure I won't cut because not much of a point to do so. You know what? I'm just going to keep going, and then eventually I'll go over to the Soviet stuff. Might as well. Sarin gas crackdown, I think it's called. Interesting that there's an entire portion of the right side of the map that we can see is never used. It cuts off. This line is actually what cuts off on the mini-map, but we can see, obviously, all the extra stuff. We can see the waypoints for all the off-map areas that the convoys are supposed to go to. But, something happened. Alright, I think the only thing I really want to check is this dome. Something 134. Oops. Trigger. Oh, it's a 1-3 plus. So 13 plus. Global set 13. Man, this is not quite show. Global set 13 war, sure. Team types. Alright, well, I'm never going to be able to figure this one out, I don't think. Is the trucks. Some groups that are supposed to move with the trucks, I believe. Area guard. Yeah. Tac 2A, Tac 2B, etc. Is there anything with a link trigger 13 plus? Worst is that I'm trying to go at these at a fast pace because again, so much of this to cover. I'm already I think an hour into my recording, and I've got at least like another hour and a half, 2 hours. So let's try to speed it up here, or at least like not dilly dally too much. Yeah, not much I can really say about this, other than I'm not entirely sure of the significance of the radar dome after even checking this. Yeah, strange. Sarin gas 2, same thing as before, with other underground maps. We got a medic, got a spy, got civilian. I don't believe that any of these civilians really are going to tell me anything. Trigger F6, guard. Yeah, so if we were to ever move out, the dogs would just, chomp on us. If you go here, you can destroy this. This scientist is, if I click on him, Agent Chan, sure. He'll move over to the truck, which I think you just need to constantly, there you go. And 2, so I believe he's supposed to go over, someone said he's supposed to go over to, yeah, he's supposed to go over here and crash into the mammoth tank, but that doesn't make much sense. I don't. I would have imagined he'd, go here, but apparently not. Anyways, and then anybody who gets here wins. But there's nothing really to say about this other than I guess the use of all the advanced power plants off map. Again, all for the Tesla coils, which is actually interesting. I guess you can't make them spawn without having a construction yard, because I think every time we've seen buildings being built, it's specifically with a construction yard on the map. I figured there'd just be a trigger that causes them to spawn, rather than a construction yard needing to be built. What is this? Crackdown, I think? Controlled burn, sorry. Controlled burn, same thing. Very simple map. Not much to really say. Oil derricks on top, but that draws these guys up. You kill them, move in, etc. Interesting that only these two buildings are linked. So I guess if these two are destroyed, that's enough to power down these 4 Tesla coils. And then it's just, you're hunky-dory. You can go on with the mission. Other than that, there's nothing really special here. Personal war, again, another crazy mission. We can see that there's a bunch of triggers, a lot of follow stuff, engagements, +5, which is just like a global thing that we've seen before. Yeah, pretty interesting. The fact of if you get to this area, it spawns all the civilians, and if you kill all the civilians, it messes with these other triggers, because there's not enough units that enter in, so it doesn't trigger them as quickly, and then that's how you get Stavros off the map super quick. If you don't, we go with the same process. The nuke triggered here, I guess, destroyed this, which is interesting to say the least. Yeah, somebody mentioned destroying, if you go up here, you can destroy the bridge with these mammoth tanks on it. I believe if they move, over it enough, you can destroy the entire bridge, or at least the section they're on, and kill them. Which alleviates the issue, which is that you have 2 mammoth tanks to not deal with from the front. I did it once, and then every other time I did it, Tanya just couldn't get to this bridge and then back here in time to not get murdered by V2s that were following me. So that's why I didn't do it in the quote-unquote official run. Evacuation, again, fairly simple map. The only thing I can really say with this map, I guess I'd probably say it's very simple too often. I just compare these to other later games and such, and it's just you see the amount of waypoints all around, which is nice. But the way that these are built doesn't seem to have. I guess maybe they're just not as intrusive as later games might with their triggers and such. Anyways, we can see the exact areas that are covered by triggers, so that this is what you would have to touch so that the civilians spawn, which I guess is fairly lenient. Especially this middle one, you have to get fairly close to the actual church anyways. And looking at the placement, you don't really have to worry too much about the placement of your units. If you're ever walking around, just make sure you don't bring a spy, really. Or a single solitary unit, because you'll just have a hard time. Other than that, again, the only spot that you can ever lift those guys up, or the civilians, is from the middle of the map and the bottom of the map. So, obviously, if you're not going for what I did, which is destroying all the units, you can't go on the bottom of the map. You have to go through the middle, which is fairly close to a Tesla coil. which isn't cool. There's also a duo of V2 launchers if those ever spot you. The really bad time for civilians. And, flamethrower troops, grenadiers, tanks. So, it's not the hardest thing to get around. You just have enough units so you can get past it, or at least use them as ablative armor. But at the same time, prickly defenses to have to work around. Siberian Conflict 1, fresh tracks. Again, the nukes that we saw. Let's see, because I know somebody said that the triggers were random, but I don't believe they are. I don't think they are. T-70. So if we look, elapsed time 1/10 of a minute. So 10 seconds, 70 seconds. That doesn't make sense. I never could understand the time units, because I always try to attribute them as a direct, it's 60 seconds, but it never doesn't equate that much, so I don't know. So reinforcement T-70, I know this waypoint, I think is 79, but let's see if that matters. Patrol to waypoint 18, that's 17, so that's not the case. Maybe that's just one heavy tank, though. So it's really up here. Yeah, waypoint 80. Comes in on waypoint 80, goes to 18, and then attacks anything. Okay. So what shows up? Oh, there we go. Route 6. Yeah, so nope, it's not random. Whoever I don't believe these are random. But it's nice to know what routes they actually get on. Okay, I'm going to look this up. So we have T50, which is obviously the time, as we've seen with T70. And Route 4 is Route 4, the one it's on. Let's see what trigger, if there's anything different. Okay, so the only thing I can imagine is that it's possible, I guess, to advance the global timer, the global set, whatever that number is, to occur. And that might cause it to be early. But I really don't think that's the case. So I don't know. For me, jury's out. I don't believe it's the case. Interesting, though, that it actually tells you which ones. So you only see convoys from these major 4 areas and top left, and then you get the one that enters in from behind your base, which is a jerk move. I guess technically there's also 78. I should say also there's 78, but I think that only gets used once, same as with the bottom left in your base one. Trapped, again, not anything I can really say on this one. I still think it's weird that trucks only go off on the left side of the map and not the right. Sure, you could wall it off or do something, but there's at least 2 paths that are, if you don't mine, if you don't harvest them, there's nowhere to build stuff. And then, you could probably, I can't remember if you get a mine layer, but it just seems weird. Maybe the judgment call or whatever is that to the right is where we have units defending. Or just the orientation on the map suggests that the left side would be towards Soviet forces. I don't know. I do not know. Wasteland is another one, the last one, I believe, in the Allied campaign. And people are saying it's, or at least one person was saying that it's really nice that the AI is compartmentalized, which I definitely agree. 2 people were talking about how it's nice that the AI uses a lot more infantry, and I concur. It's nice to see that, we've seen and rely on air power, which is tough to deal with at times, just with power consumption and or just building a shit ton of rocket soldiers. But actually having them build like a lot of infantry, dogs, and flamethrowers or grenadiers is nice. Sadly, it's just there's nothing that the Soviets have in terms of ground forces or infantry that deals well against tanks. So you kind of just build tanks and you force them into that build or play style. And again, it's a neat touch, but I don't think very useful to have a little bit of open area on the complete left side of the base. It just doesn't really do much. Like the most I can say is it exists. That's about it. But you can't really sneak a large forest. Good luck trying to shuffle anything through there because you might get hit by the Tesla coil, and even if you don't, there's not much else. A lot of minerals, though. I think that's something this map really lets you know is that there's a ton of income, so you don't ever really have to worry about you're not under fire from nukes, I don't believe, so you don't really have to worry about like a artificial timer or anything. You just take your time on it. Here's the first map for Aftermath. So Caught in the Act is actually a very trigger-based, very, very trigger-based, actually, level where you have Tanya, starts in the bottom left. Again, all these Counter-Strike and Aftermath, there's no variance on them. Like every time you play them, there's no option later on. So as far as I'm aware from the thread, it's a little different in the Retaliation game for the PlayStation, whereas Retaliation you at least didn't have to complete all the missions to progress, so you could miss one or two. I think throughout the entire playthrough, but not really an option in the PC, just because you have a menu that lets you pick all of them. But basic gist is that you're going from island to island, and you're building up your forces slowly. You just kind of have to be careful not to lose Tanya, or units that are very important for defense, such as your rocket soldiers, if they have two hinds, which sadly happened to me several times and was kind of annoying. In the Nick of Time is one that, frankly, is actually rather frustrating. Just like on playing it, it kind of has the same problem I have with any sort of limited order or limited unit map. I really love them. I think it's a really great way to involve strategy and stuff, but the only time I find it really frustrating and I don't appreciate them as much is when they're super tight. That, basically where you're requiring perfect movement and attack and that sort of stuff. And the only reason I dislike it is because you end up having caveats that you kind of have to admit, which is the fact that especially in a game as old as this, the pathfinding isn't super great, and what ends up happening is certain units will just get lost or not attack as soon as you want them to, and so on. So, you get that sort of problem. This I actually never knew existed, because why the heck would you want to walk towards a cliff? So I never got the reinforcement team, which is consisted of 5 units. That's okay. That would have been nice. That actually makes me think of a future game, which isn't a secret. Tiberian Sun actually, I believe, does that a few times, where it's more, I guess in a way, cinematic. If you just explore, you sometimes find more units that are helpful to the cause, so to speak. I know somebody mentioned that mines are supposed to be... there's supposed to be like a tell on cells for where a mine is, but I've never noticed it. So obviously, seeing him here already on the map doesn't help. Maybe I'll go review a video or not, but I don't recall there's ever a tell. I'm pretty sure they're completely invisible to an enemy player. And I think at all times, too. I don't think capturing anything ever reveals them. Son of a... Production disruption, super simple map. I think I beat this like in 5 minutes or whatever. You get some chrono tanks. First mission, you get chrono tanks, which are actually super nice. But yeah, this map is super small and can be trivialized. I think the main issue was that I was given nuke trucks, and you use them well enough, and you're kind of automatically given a win. That and like just keep your chrono tanks to the side or whatever. If you can scout any of these islands, you just teleport them over, and you're kind of good to go. Especially if you can teleport them onto the submarine, like this one, just to shoot the submarine pen. I want to say this one was a tough mission. I think it was just long though. This is actually a portion where spoilers, I guess, for very, very future me, or very, very past you, whatever. I haven't played these missions. Like, I beat these missions probably a month ago, and by the time this comes out, it'll probably be 2 or 3 months from now. So I haven't even edited these videos. All the Aftermath stuff I have not yet edited. I'm actually, today I posted the first mission of Counter-Strike to give you guys an idea. So, yeah, fairly simple map. I believe the AI was just like really good at producing stuff, so it was kind of a slog. But I also, if I remember correctly, they never advanced past this. I don't even know, the ford. I'll just call it a ford. The path through the water. They never really like sent anybody over, so it was kind of easy to defend. I never really bothered with this little town or village either. So I think it says DT times 1 or something. DT X1. Destroyed by anybody. Destroy trigger. Link to infantry 1. Yeah, I don't know. Infantry. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to be about. Either way, I don't recall these guys ever really doing anything. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm just going to blame the fact that I haven't touched it in quite some time. And again, if I can reveal some personal stuff, playing these missions, Counter-Strike and Aftermath, there's certain missions I just never really played much of. So they kind of get foggier for me because I just don't know. Like, I don't have that same amount of playtime on them, so I don't recall like specifically all the different things that can happen. Like these 4 advanced power plants, I don't even remember if something reveals it so I can teleport onto it and then destroy them all. It's just one of those things, like, how do they build that when there's no beach landing? Whatever. Again, this is another map that has the chrono tanks, so you start on one island, clear it, you do whatever objective or whatever you're told to do, move over to the next, destroy the buildings. Chrono tanks are nice enough to have longer range than flamethrower defensive structures, and then again, hop again, and lastly, hop to the last area, so you can do that. I feel, if I remember correctly, I kind of cheesed this where I just like went straight for nukes, and having chrono tanks is like super easy for that, because as soon as you reveal them with, say, a spy, then you can easily just chrono tank in and just destroy them. It's a lot easier to do the top one first, obviously, because there's just less here to defend. There's 2 helipads that can be built, but I don't believe the AI is very good at keeping those populated. So if you destroy a hind, it usually stays gone forever. And like 1 barracks. So 1 barracks won't produce enough to really stop chrono tanks. Whereas a war factor nearby can at least like do something. Same thing with the Tesla coil. You get in the Tesla coil's range and you'll be in trouble. The nuclear silo up here is just too far away. So Monotank Madness is probably one of the missions I always enjoyed playing as a kid, but never for the right reasons. Um, and two reasons for that. One, Mad Tanks and Monster Tank Madness are two different things. These three Mammoth Tanks are supposed to be like superpower Mammoth Tanks. And even though they say like health, they've got unique properties basically. I want to say they'd be in the rules, but I think this is just a generic file, so I don't think it'd have the special rules for the level itself. It might actually be in a mix file that would have to extract the files and then put them in. Point is that the Mammoth Tanks are super strong. We've seen that before. And if you basically like infiltrate a building, it messes with them, and then they go haywire and start attacking everything, which is a heck of a lot of fun because the player, can just like sit back, especially because you don't really have too much to work with, either in terms of just like building space, income, or just quality of units. Also, there's not much like. Going back to like if I can find little knickknacks on the map, there's not much here that I can really spot. There's a church here, or the Hansel Gretel house or whatever. Church might spawn something, but that's about it. There's nothing too crazy about that map. Pawn, man, I don't remember much about Pawn, which is kind of sad. Oh, right, you have to hold out until you can get your actual construction going, and then you can go defeat the enemy. So it's a nice imposed restriction. I kind of, I always forget about like water being here, which is actually interesting to know if you're playing, but water in terms of like a water landing. Obviously, it's easy to tell there's water there. If I remember correctly, I went on the left side and I had a mechanic. He just repaired the hell out of one of my medium tanks. So, hero mechanic, which is actually, I actually like the fact that they brought in that unit. Just kind of sad that both the medic and mechanic are on the Allied side rather than the Soviet side, which you'd think they would want when you have Mammoth tanks that have such large HP pools and such. A lot of money, if I remember correctly, hidden in all these various oil derricks. I believe the trick to knowing which ones have stuff are the ones with red on them. I believe is the telltale sign. I could be wrong though. Yeah, I think I'm wrong. But in any case, there's a lot of money to be had, so that was always nice. Not much else to really say though. Negotiations, which was the mission with Tanya. It's actually super interesting to see that they actually build an entire base, but I don't know if there's a construction yard anywhere. Yeah, I don't see a construction yard, so I guess maybe they're just that's just weird. I guess the this building, the command center, might actually give them enough. Excuse me. It might actually the command structure might actually act as a pseudo construction yard, which is probably why they get to build. Because otherwise, they should have a construction yard, but they don't. Again, with all Tanya maps, heavily laden with triggers. Obviously, there's a natural focal point that pushes you to go completely to the right before moving north and then west. I don't believe that Buddy here. General. Yeah, it's just so he's just got a unique sprite, but there doesn't ever seem to be anything specifically related to him dying. Like, I don't. Excuse me, I know this is super entertaining for everybody. I don't believe that killing him ever triggers anything else. I think it just kills him. That's it. I can't see anything that indicates that it would do otherwise. So, Absolute Madness is a super tough level. Um, it's definitely one that if you don't pay attention to the rules and do it quickly enough, you kind of set yourself up for a lot more trouble than is worth. It's interesting also that I believe it's more apparent with Aftermath because Aftermath got all the units. As you can see with the AM here, these are Aftermath specific units. Don't pay attention to these ones. We'll get to them. So the Aftermath specific units, that's, that was interesting, to say the least. But so they all have like their special triggers, which is interesting. That's how they pop in and such. But the map specifically, we saw a unit gets produced, goes over here. Mad Tank gets produced, goes over here. It's kind of a jerk move for the Iron Curtain to actually apply to 6 Mammoth Tanks at once. But so you gotta be careful about that. If you destroy this bottom right section is way more important than you might ever think. And that's kind of, like, I know it gets revealed if you go into the tech center or whatever, but kind of sucks that it took me a while to ever get there. Also, I didn't realize like how short of funds. Like, I know there's 3 wells here and another 4 here, but yeah, it does not give you a lot of leeway. As soon as you start, you kind of have to fight for income. And that's it. All these other ones there's no more allied ones. All these other ones are just multiplayer maps. So if you're ever curious as to what the multiplayer maps are, like this one is obviously the Soviet level 6. I want to say 6, but I'm probably wrong. I don't think it's as high as 8, but slightly redesigned. There's obviously way more passages and such, but I feel like the top left here is mostly, like, it's very reminiscent of it. It's not a 1-1 copy, obviously, but very, very reminiscent. Interesting that there's not any, like, civilian buildings or anything. I guess maybe they just didn't want to confuse people with those being destroyed, because then it might affect the credit score or something. I don't know. Anyways, so that's that for the Allies. Let's do a little bit of fun. By now, we should have explored the "It Came from Red Alert." I'll try not to do that again. Came from Red Alert, which is a parody of "It Came from the Desert," which is a parody of Them. So if I remember correctly, I believe Slow Beef and Diabetes actually did a long play, or commented over a long play, and I forget who did the long play, of a game called "It Came from the Desert," which is about radioactive ants. Ants get into a nuclear power plant or nuclear waste. I believe it's nuclear waste. Mutate and then try to take over the world by, was it the Saturn? Which, I forget which platform it was on. But the one Soapy and Diabetes were commenting over was the screwed up version, where it's super hilarious. Go watch the video, it's fun. But the basic gist of it is that ants gain kind of like a superpower, and then they want to take over the world because, of course. This kind of mirrors it, where the ants get into a nuclear power plant or some sort of power plant, some sort of Soviet base that is doing stuff, and then they get big and are trying to, in a way, take over the Earth. It's never stated as such, but it's kind of what they're doing. And it's all based on I would assume, a novel that the movie I'm thinking of is based on, which is called Them, THEM, ! Which is about, if I remember correctly, just ants getting basically incredible growth due to nuclear waste. And one of those movies of the time where it's trying to promote the fact that nuclear energy is bad and stuff, and will cause the end of the world. We've got other people that do that, but they can't pronounce nuclear. They say nuclear. Only interesting thing I can really see here on this map, which was shown off, although not expressly or not on purpose, is the fact that waypoint 26, an ant actually destroyed a tree, and then they managed to get in and attack the radar dome and I believe barracks at one point. I don't know what LO01 does, though, because I never got anybody in there. Reinforcement Team Loop 1. Well, that's going to bug me if that was actually a... Oh, okay. Phew. So if you go up there, then that just triggers ants to go attack you, which they're super jerks. And they come in on waypoint 12, go to 13-1, and then 16. So I assume 16 here. Yeah, so if you go up here, this is kind of one of those maps that like really punishes you, because if you don't go the right way, like if you go in these minerals, you just get ants come after you right away. And it's just, it's difficult. So if you ever, like, I would suggest playing, and I'm sure I will say this when I record the ant episodes, because I haven't done that yet, but I will reiterate my future words to say that play the levels on easy if you're having a hard time, although you will have to contend with the slower speed of everything. If you can deal with it, just because the maps are fun. They deserve being experienced by everybody, even if that's you and you think you suck at video games. We have the carryover rule take place once again, so we have to inherit. Skip map select because there's that's I think a thing I didn't show off. Skip map select because obviously it goes to the next map. There's no map to show because the ants. It's not on a map. It's just it's in any town USA or somewhere. I don't think it's ever stated. I forget the briefing, but anyways, yeah, it's never stated. And then no spy plane. I don't know why. Skip score, which is weird because I'm pretty sure that's not the case. But anyways, not super important. What is super important is that you inherit your old base. So this actually always takes into account that the tree is busted, I guess, which is interesting. Maybe it just deletes it if you stop them in the first mission. Only real thing to be worried about is these trucks. You should absolutely destroy or come up here so that you can destroy this, and then at the same time build units like tanks, especially tanks really, to go destroy these bridges as soon as possible. As soon as you destroy these, basically it's over. You don't have to worry about the mission. Obviously destroy this nest as well, but if as soon as you do those two things, this level's a pushover. You don't have to worry about anything. Just get the civilians, go the long way, clear the entire map, and you're good to go. It's actually kind of funny that, the ants are so huge, but they can't swim. We're shit still. I guess I shouldn't say those words, but hunt. This one gave me trouble, if I remember correctly. The map's just tough. Like there's a lot of areas with ant hills that you want to take out. At the same time, it's also really confusing because of the various triggers that are in place. So when you put the gas, it doesn't stop production of ants. Ants will always get produced, but as soon as they exit, they will take a certain amount of time to hit the trigger for the gas, because I guess that's on a timer and it only happens like at an impulse every 2 seconds or whatever. So ants will come out, and then as soon as they advance into the gas area, then they die. Actually, we can kind of see it right now. So there's the gas 7. That's like the specific area that the gas works. Same thing with this rear side, I believe. So if anything gets into these, then they die, but otherwise, no. It might be the entire big box, GXA for example, up here. But point is that it takes time for them to spawn and then die. At the same time, you can always like trick ants to come into the area and then die, which I did several times. It's always nice. And you get APCs, so there's nothing stopping you from just loading up an APC like I did on multiple occasions, riding it up and then dumping the guy out because, hey, screw the scientist, I need to save the world. The sacrifices must be made. There's also nothing else really. I don't want to say interesting, but there's nothing important other than that on the map. I guess maybe let me see. They do. I forgot that they all are damaged, so they appear damaged. There's just no damaged sprites in the editor, which I guess is kind of weird, but whatever. And then the final mission, which is actually really tough. I forgot about the whole power down and then going certain areas. So I know I explored everything. And oh boy, the ending is really friggin' tough and dumb. I don't remember being as tough as that, but yeah. These crates, which I don't believe I have any way of checking, which sucks. Certain crates had a superpower. Yeah, I can't check these, which bugs me. And I don't think they're in triggers either. No. Anyways, so some of the boxes, some of the crates had weapon upgrades, and some of them had armor upgrades. It's basically what you can imagine. One makes the unit stronger. Well, actually, both make your unit stronger. You always want to put it on your Stavros guy because, well, he's just the best around. Someone might keep him down, and he just got the general thing. So, anyways, now let's move on to Soviets. There's a lot of maps, I know. I believe that's all of them. Yeah, 14, and then 8, and then another 8. Yeah, that might actually, is that 9? Whatever. Anyways, Lesson in Blood, first map for the Soviets. If I cut right before this map, then welcome back, because, wow, I've been talking for a long friggin' time by now. Not much to really talk about. I guess it's interesting that they have like an extra built-around layer on the right, but that never serves any purpose. That's about it. There's so many barrels here that if you've played this mission enough, you can do like what I did, where I just blindly attacked areas, and you can just set them all off because they're close enough to trigger each other, so you kind of get that mutual destruction going on. Here's another reason. I know this is like far into this, and if you don't remember in the previous, if I cut this, whatever, I'm just going to speak as if this is one video. I previously mentioned that the names come in the INI files, and this is kind of an example. If you look at the top of the screen, it says none. So for whatever reason, there was no official name in the file. So you kind of have to just like assume that there's a name, and some people just come up. I know on the various wikis there's names for them, but they're usually just made up. I think another good example is the Allied Mission 8, which is Protecting the Chronosphere, and literally the title of the mission on wikis is Protect the Chronosphere, and like Tech Center or whatever, but it's the long form. It's not like withdrawal or Allied resilience or something. It's just very literal to the objective. This is the one we didn't play, if I remember correctly. Just different on its triggers, really. Approaching the base is a lot easier in this one. And the south path sucks. Don't ever take the south path. Just because it's longer. It's just a personal thing. It's also easier in the sense that there's more triggers for paratroopers, if I recall correctly. And like destroying the stuff in the base is just easier. Here's the map that we did play on. where I kept failing the grenadier trick and killing a lot of guys as a result. That was fun. But again, there's the early missions, super bare bones, not much to really be able to talk about. Covert cleanup, we can see what we missed on the map. There's not too much to talk about. There's a little bit of like extra portion up here that we never get to see, top left. The map extends way more to the left than I ever would have thought possible. Or not possible, but imaginable. I don't know why there's so much space there. And at the same time, we can see like the church is the last like resort for the spy. So it's supposed to go up to all the various churches, and then eventually goes to waypoint 29. And then I think when you kill these last two guys, he spawns out and then goes to 3046, and then you win. Like you can't you can't really mess that up. I don't know why there's this waypoint on a tree is bugging me, but whatever. I guess maybe there's something that would allow them to destroy the tree and then they can walk through without going through the barrels. I don't know. Maybe I'm just going crazy. I'm thinking about it too much. Behind the lines, this is a super early mission. Again, built up on the left, which is weird. I don't know why they just practicing stuff, or maybe they tried some templates and it just didn't work. Like they didn't like the look of the map, or thought it would be bigger and then realized it was too big. I don't know. There's something there. Kind of wish there was a developer that I knew, because I have horrible anxiety and don't feel like admitting to a developer of a game I love that, hey, I let's play your game and I'm curious as to know stuff about it. It's kind of why the Saboteur thing was interesting, but not necessarily something I wanted to do specifically. In regards to interviewing the guy who did the story. Check out my Saboteur LP, or not, whatever. Do what you want. Yeah, so super basic map. Not much to really talk about. The other version was not one I played, but I remember playing this as a kid several times. Only thing I can really say is I don't like the layout of this map when it comes to... now I'm having like horrible flashbacks, because I know I replayed some levels to get like briefings, and I'm pretty sure I played this one I want to say by accident, but not really. Bonus up here in the church on the top left. Otherwise, not really anything about this is special. It looks like some of these buildings are like a teal color, but that's just the text. Strange that if there's a War Factory building placement, I don't know if that's an error. Like somebody actually saved that when building it to deliver to, like, for the editor, or if it's something else. And we can see that there's the radar dome, which is the objective for the map, behind some nasty pillboxes and tanks. So something to be careful about when playing this game. What is this? Distant Thunder? Seriously? That's the name? Wow. I never knew this map was called Distant Thunder. Again, there's not much I can really add to this level. I spoke about it at length. And, you know, I had to replay it several times. It probably my least favorite map, just for the fact that of memories as a kid. You know, it's unfair, but you know, that's the way the dice roll sometimes. Bridge over. So this is the objective. This is the get the Iron Curtain parts over the side of the map. Again, it's really easy to do it on this one, because you generally have enough forces that you can kind of just like capture their attention and then drive the truck up through. If you happen to play this the normal way, you're supposed to go through this base, which is just annoying, and then you drive to safety. Again, this is annoying because you might be fooled into thinking it's safe, and then next thing you know, you get 3 light tanks. The cruisers are just a pain, so you always, if you're going for speed runs, you have to worry about these guys. We can see there's a crate up here, health crate, so that's kind of sneaky. Money crate at the church, something to pay attention to. Otherwise, yeah, not too much. I guess it's strange that there's trees here. I guess to prevent the player from going around from all the defenses, but you might be able to actually destroy one or two and get through. It's weird that they're named. Those are. It's weird to me that what maps are and are not named. But hey, this is the one I played. Yeah, the enemy just starts at the higher, better defense at the start, so it's harder to bust through. So you're incentivized to actually build a base. The roaming cruiser is also really annoying, but that's about it. Core matter, really? Okay. I have no clue why these bio research labs are here. Triggered time. Seriously? What the heck? Tim. Tell me what you do, Tim. Force triggered, text 1. Reveal around waypoint. Destroy attached building. Really? Why are these? I do not understand why those buildings exist. But sure. You'll notice that all... How many units? Yeah, so this is another thing that's interesting. So you can see that there's a loss trigger on these 4 guys. So I believe if you get to a certain point, there's something that just kills that trigger. Because by then you'd have the dogs and so on. I believe these 2 triggers might do it. But the point is that after a certain point, after you've progressed enough, you will have destroyed them. This is interesting. I've never seen these 2 flamethrowers. These 2 flamethrowers are lies, and I've never seen them in my life. Ever. Bam. B-A-M-M. Seriously? How does this make any sense? I've never seen these flamethrower towers in my life. Because, like, I would imagine... Okay, so this is trigger called Boom. So I would imagine that going to trigger Boom would global set 9 BRL1. Barrel. Duh. Destroy attached building, which I don't know what it's attached to. So that's cool. Triggers Boom. Yeah. Global set 9. And that's not... I'm confused by this. This is another thing that just gets confusing. Because I don't know what causes these 2 flamethrowers to go boom. Actually, I don't even know what sets this one off either. Because when I played, it was not there. So, someone someday might tell me. And then I will slap my head very hard and probably won't be the wiser for it, but I'll have tried. That will be my test. Anyways, suffice to say, it's a simple map, but confusing with these 4 flamethrowers that I have never seen in my life. Maybe this 4th one. Maybe one next to 4. And that's why you go up to take out the infantry, but otherwise, never seen it. Oh well. Was this the one we played on? Yeah. No. This is mission 8. Yeah, hey, I was right in the multiplayer comment. So this is mission 8. You actually start with units. You don't have a barracks though. So it takes longer for you to actually build a unit for them to run away. But on the flip side, we can see that the general outline of, I don't want to say outline of bases, but the general idea is the same. It's actually harder to get units here because there's an AA gun that's covering the north side. So paratrops make you very vulnerable because you're shot by the AA gun several times. And you might see this little gun, this little camo pillbox right in the corner here. So no, the outline doesn't always help because you might think it's just the advanced power plant. And yeah, it's just like super sneaky. It catches you by surprise, and next thing you know, your paradrops don't work. It's why the other map I find is much better in terms of attacking. Again, like once or twice you might drop some paratroopers here, and then next thing you know, you got a camo pillbox there that's murdering your guys. The only exception, I guess, would be like if you landed them here, and then just kind of, destroy this turret, which won't happen, and then that. But the real important part, honestly, is the civilians. There's a lot more civilians in this map, and the civilians actually do stuff. We can see that there's mines. Apparently the Allies will put mines here, which I don't recall ever seeing. Or maybe there's something to trigger them for something else. But we can see that there's at least one signal area that a civilian runs over, drops a signal flare, and there's another one up here. So these two will basically spawn reinforcements and help the Allies in trying to kill you, which is not fun. Signal 4, I believe, 3 and 4, I don't believe are 3 might be allied, but I don't recall 4. Is 4 an allied one? Yeah, it is. 3 and 4, though, you have to have, again, these are all civilian activated, if I recall correctly. It might be activated with, like, these guys, the other team. I don't believe so. But regardless of the case, if it is the civilians, they have to actually walk over here. So as long as you have some units in place, you're kind of good on protecting these two. The ones actually north of your base are actually hard to get to because you've got, you don't start with anything other than 3 infantry, so you're not going to crack through the Jeep, especially, and killing the civilians is going to be tough, so. And the version 8 mission that we actually played, again, we don't actually start with the barracks. I thought I started with the barracks regardless. Anyways, the idea remains the same. There are civilians on the map. They will pop signals, but I think I only ever see them do one. And then something, I don't think I ever saw 2. Maybe once, but I've never seen signals 3 or 4 ever show up. And you can kind of see that it's a little easier to get to the civilian base. Not in the sense that there's more units or anything. There's actually 1 rocket infantry less, which is weird. But more specifically that it's, as long as you can push out a little bit, they're kind of in the path. So they go to signal 1 is always the first one, obviously. Then 2 and 3 and 4. If you block the path to 1, you just kill them on the way, so. And then there's all the crates that I don't think I got. Hey. Mission number 9, which was starting with a lot of not destroyed, but damaged stuff, and you have to pay attention to make sure you don't get wiped out by these jerks, the 2 helicopters here, the Apache longbows. This one I beat super quickly, so there's a lot of stuff we have not seen. I actually never knew that I never saw this in my life. Wow, 3 money, healing. What the hell is all this? Power plant specifically for these 2 AA guns. I think the thing too is that I never even had an AA, like AA always shoots at stuff, obviously. But I don't think I've ever seen AA shoot at anything from here, so I never noticed them. That's crazy. I've never seen these guys. I'm genuinely impressed. I knew about this group, the top right, the refinery. You can bust that rather quickly or easily. And if you break the refinery, there's nothing else for the Allies to do. Like, they don't get any more income. I don't get why they got a boat here, but whatever. construction yard actually explains, the MCV explains how you can have this base, which is brown. It's actually interesting to see what their base development is like too. Especially that they get 3 turrets at the bottom and not 2 turrets and a camo pillbox like the other spots. A lot of money at the south, but very hard to get to, very time consuming to get to. Also, there's a trigger for the, I believe there's a trigger, or at least waypoints for the AI, so that it attacks it, because it has to get through it. I think that's why we saw it on the tree with the ants. A waypoint on a cell forces it to go through it, even if there's something there. So it will attack it, and that's how you get AI to attack walls, and trees, more specifically. If I remember correctly, the way for the allies to win, wow, that's a lot of mines. That's another thing too. This mine layer goes, he drops mine there. All these waypoints, drops a mine at each one of them. But getting back to the objective, so I guess, okay, so this makes sense. This is why not necessarily why the naval yard's here, but this is why this water and waypoint is here. So the truck does not look like it's on the map right now, and I don't think I could spot it if I tried. I just don't think it's on the map. So basically, either the truck comes in from here, which I wonder if there's a trigger for it or something. This is probably going to take a while, so I'm not going to bother. Point is that either it comes off from the right side of the map, which I doubt it. I think it comes from the top and then drops and then goes to 96 and then faces south. Or just faces whatever. It doesn't really matter what side it faces. Point is that once you actually do something and spook them by entering these areas, as marked by all the entrance stuff, which basically just triggers other stuff. But I think once you get to entrance 4 and 3 and 2, I think that's what sets it off. Entrance 5 maybe. But the truck will eventually go to, it should go to waypoint 62, 56, 57, and then goes to 58, 59, and then 60, and eventually 61. And if it gets to 61, you've lost. At least that's when I'm pretty sure that's how it goes, because I remember losing that way. And I believe I mentioned the trick that if you destroy the bridge with a submarine, like it's fairly easy to gain control here, because the cruiser won't do anything to your boats. And, 2 destroyers and a gunboat is not much for subs to take out. So if you destroy the bridge, and I believe somebody mentioned they blew the bridge on both sides, which pretty tough for you to do against AI because trucks move quickly. But if you can do it, then hey, you stop the AI from winning. And I don't believe it has a backup plan. I don't think if you blow the bridge, it'll get a transport and then do it that way. I think it's just kind of screwed. Which is fair enough, because, it's a tough level if you don't cheese it. 10, Overseer, apparently. Power plants never really pay attention to these. I don't even think they're visible. I think they just give points, but whatever. First time you get MiGs, it's a fairly straightforward level. I don't think it's anything I really need to explain. Other than, there's a couple weird waypoints, on the tree here and whatever, but honestly, nothing really to talk about. I guess I could check out this, but I don't think it's got timer. Yeah, so if you do anything, if you destroy it, I guess capturing it counts as destroyed or something, then it starts the timer trigger. Same thing if you actually just drive through these cells, just, whatever. Auto. I think the only other thing I could check is auto. Auto production. Yeah, I don't know. Turkey is Turkey is the Soviet side because it's got the trucks. Looks like it anyways. Yeah. Yeah, Turkey's a bad guy group. So the same thing would apply to Ukraine, which makes sense. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here that explains why why specifically the stuff doesn't work, but whatever. This is the mission I played. Defeat the naval, destroy the naval base, naval resupply base. Ton of mines we can see. Even here, all the... Excuse me. Even here, it's really hard to see all the camel pillboxes. Just one here. Oops. There. One here. One, what was it, there? And one behind two trees up here. So really tough to see. I always feel like camel pillboxes are even tougher in winter than they are anywhere else. And I think it might be because of the shade of blue, just kind of blends in more than with green. Kind of clashes a little bit with green. Nothing really to talk about. Somebody did mention the crates up here. There are 3 crates for money, so that's always useful if you're low on cash. But honestly, not much else to really say. I don't even think it's possible to I want to say it's not even possible to ever be able to build something here and then go to the next island and then build around it so you can get subs to attack the dockyard right away. I don't think it's possible. So, anyways. I do recall playing this once, though. This one's, yeah. I mean, really, just look at this. I think I've played this map once. All of the camel pillboxes are in the same sort of sneaky locations you come to expect. And in a way, these are actually, I feel like these kind of messed me up a little bit more, just with where they are. Also makes it super tough to ever advance, because I did mammoth tanks in a way that's kind of the how you should go about it, because they can heal. It takes a long time for them to heal and so on, but at least it's manageable. I feel like if you did the infantry route, you're kind of just doing the same thing, but in a way more vulnerable fashion. And what I mean by that is that if you use your infantry to advance, you're going to come up against your camel pillboxes and tanks and artillery and infantry. And so if you try to rush the V2s up and you don't know where the mines are, and thankfully there's only 2 areas of mines, so the AI could easily just developers could have put 4 areas really and still have space. But the point is that you try to rush up your V2s to help out, and then everybody dies because V2s take out the mine or get taken out by mines and then kill their own guys, and then camo pillboxes and so on. So very, very tough to manage. I feel like this level is also more restrictive on income because of how the fields are placed, and you've got way more cruisers close by. You've got three of them, one kind of covering every location, which isn't the case for the other variant. Mission 12, we saw this one. Awesome start. Quite a few waypoints, drop here is to be expected. The helicopters that eventually show up and just harass you. Various stuff coming in here and getting the Chinook to spawn on, I believe it was 19 or 17, something like that, and then sending guys down. The mines, which we've seen before. This is an area that apparently can be managed, so you can get V2s in here, which makes sense. But I've never thought about that one. I always felt for whatever reason you can't drive through here. This isn't a big enough cap. But I think that's just a problem with me, a visual thing. Maybe if it was signposted more, I don't know. And the main map is just the same. If you go through, these cell triggers are basically, if you get close and you walk into them, the chronosphere auto-destructs, and then you get a loss. Even though capturing all of these, it'll blow up anyways. Another mission I played on, This was the one that got very frustrating. If you enter any of these cells for whatever reason, even spy planes, it'll trigger a loss. Super annoying. Especially because you got a radar dome that can... I mean, you can get a V2s like from below, but you don't really think about that. You kind of, you know... Especially if they still have power, because then you can't see them thanks to the gap generators. I think it highlights just how much or how little income there is on the side too. Nothing to regenerate here on the right. The nearest well, at least so far, is near the Allied base and up here in the top right corner. But building refineries for both sides is just not efficient. But I guess at the same time, at least the Allies are in the same position. Also interesting that the AI, I guess, is designed to put mines here because there's none at mission start, which is interesting because usually we've always seen if mines are on the map, they're usually placed ahead of time. Also get to see a mobile gap generator. Hooray, I guess. They're not special. I'm being harsh on them. I never liked mobile gap generators, but there's also never a point to use them in the campaign. Not that you can build them anyways, but... here we got very, very similar map structure. This is almost like a copy-paste. Like the left side is exactly the same. Actually, the entire map up to like... basically up to like this edge of the screen. The only thing is that it's not a cliff face on the absolute right over here, where the mobile gap generator is. It's open. Otherwise, this map, if you took both maps and superimposed them, they're exactly the same, which is interesting, but kind of a bad thing. I don't like that as much. Same thing with this bottom portion, the exact same map. So one thing is more open. And honestly, I don't like this at all. I'm glad I didn't play on this one. There's, 2 wells, so that's cool. 2 shafts, but mines right there with a lot of units. That's kind of that. First time player, you're obviously going to get into that trap and then lose some stuff. It's also kind of dumb because I never liked this bridge. Because there's so many units here that can shoot onto the bridge that it'll never survive. So I just don't like this setup, really. But anyways. I guess in a way it's super interesting that they pretty much copy-pasted the map, but at the same time it's weird that they did. You don't really see that in many other maps. And then Soviet supremacy, we've seen last mission of the Soviet campaign. 2 money crates, healing crate. That I've never been here at all. I never bothered. It's too time consuming to get stuff there. Mines, which is super annoying. The Allies get a shit ton of power like right off the bat, so that doesn't help too much. I never noticed this guy. This general here. He doesn't seem to be assigned any... Yeah, he's not attached to any trigger either. He's just a general. Just a Stavros hanging around. Kind of weird. Huh. So, if the general... Whatever. So if you move up into here... Yeah, so if you move up into these cells, the general gets into this building and blows this bridge. So if you somehow manage to get around and kill the general, this bridge stays intact. That's neat. Because I would have never known that. But otherwise, weird. Kind of shows how limited the Allies, their limited capability of getting money. There's this... and the right side. That's it. And frankly, it'd be kind of funny if you could capture one of these super early and then just build a wall. Or maybe if like the bridge extended, I don't know. It'd be funny if there's some way to cut them off like immediately. Alright, Proving Grounds, which is Counter-Strike. First mission of Counter-Strike. I actually, this is the mission I uploaded today. So, not to say I'm like super familiar with it, because again, I didn't play it for a while. But, I always knew, going through here, getting the allied drops, super annoyed that the thieves got in. I guess there's just a second drop that comes in from behind, and then they just work their way up. That's the dick move. I never realized there was a tank here. And if you get anywhere close, it automatically attacks. There's no well or shaft. God, why do I keep calling it wells? No, there's no shaft, so not an infinite amount of income, which whatever. This is nice, the extra base up there, but it doesn't really do anything. I never knew about this base. This base is completely new to me, which is interesting. Because I have to wonder what the point is. Like, as soon as you kill the cruisers, you're done. You don't have to worry about anything. And I believe the only real buildings you need to keep alive are the Tech Center and the Iron Curtain. Like these, I don't think these ones up top right will ever die. And there's no production here either. You just get a gap generator and a naval yard. So you're not building tanks or anything. That's yeah. Supply truck doesn't have a trigger. This guy doesn't have a trigger. That guy or none of these guys have trigger. I don't get it. I don't get it. Alright. Next map. Besieged. This is probably one of my favorite maps, especially the expansions. Of the expansions, this is one of my favorites. We saw it. This guy... does it set a... Triggers die 3. Day 3. So, what's my win condition? Because I always thought by killing him, I just destroyed all. Wow. I always thought I was just killing that guy. Maybe as a kid, I just killed him and was happy, and so happy I killed him that I just quit. I don't know. That doesn't... I always remember having to just kill him and then you win. Anyways, immediately he goes up top. I've already mentioned if you get near him, he goes away. That's usually just if you land in this zone. I believe it's just a zone thing. We can see all the various things that have triggers on them. So if you let them go hog wild and just blow up everything, you lose your construction yard, a number of power plants, both refineries, a lot of defenses. Although, oddly enough, the flamethrower on the bottom right, for both the right ones, survives. Testicle survives, which is weird. And flamethrower. Yeah, so only flamethrowers survive. You get power plants, you get barracks, doghouse. I'm glad that's not bombed, really. And I don't think this is bombed. I think this is just if it gets destroyed. I don't think there's a bomb on this one. But yeah, so the idea... Oh, maybe that's what it was. So the idea is that the general sprite, because it's going to be a general sprite, the saboteur will either grab a Chinook and land over here, but I guess there's something that triggered him going into the transport, going off map, and then coming back. Because you saw the flare, and I'm sure everybody saw the Chinook. He can land in a Chinook. I think that's also why there's trigger 95, 96, 94, which is different from the 25, 26. Maybe it's the fact that I have the entrance 4 or something. Anyways, maybe he's in a Chinook if you walk up to him, but if you go through here first, he goes to the boat. I don't know. Anyways, point is that's what happened. There's the building up here. I don't know why these waypoints are there. That doesn't do anything. And there's nothing else on the map, really. Just a bunch of units, so. Mousetrap, again, another interesting, very, very interesting map, just with the amount of triggers for what the AI can do. You kind of have to be on your toes, make sure you actually do stuff quickly enough. And let's see what the lose trigger is. Obviously, if you lose everybody... Oh, yeah, so if Stavros actually leaves the map... he will win. Also, apparently there's a global timer. If a global timer happens, then he just wins. Maybe it's that the proper chronosphere gets charged up enough or something. But yeah, we can see there's a lot of chronospheres, a lot of fun about jumping around and trying to figure out where a unit's going. I think the only problem I have with this map is that you play it once and you kind of know where everything goes. Same problem as with the Saboteur from the last mission, Besieged, where if you know where a unit's going to go, it's kind of, that's it. You can just cut them off at the pass. The only difference really is that when it comes to Besieged, at least the Saboteur can't get off the map, so there's no lose condition attached to that. This one, Stavros, if he gets off, then, gets out, then not off, yeah, it's whatever. He, wins. This frustrating map that I hate, is probably the only map I really hate, or I shouldn't say hate, dislike, intense dislike, just for how it played out. The fact that, I just had to keep dodging nukes, that's not a fun gimmick. It's not interesting, it's just annoying. After 40 minutes, it's just annoying. I don't really have anything I want to say about this map, really. Text 1. Yeah, you destroy the thing. This is kind of my problem with it, is that, this, you would think this area you might be able to land troops or whatever, you can't get there. So, and you can't build the Chinook, even though that's an option. You don't have helipads, so you can't do that. But I think it just sucks that there's a gate to this level. Maybe I did it wrong, and because there's KRZ2. So what's KRZ2? Maybe I just played this level completely different. Entered global set to 0, link cell trigger to 36. Well, I don't know which cell trigger is 36, but it's probably a bad one. Alright, so if KRZ2 is in effect, it global sets 0, which does not help. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun here too much. So, global timer. Yeah, hunt. I wish there were units that could ever have even done that. I killed everybody way too quickly. Jet. Superjet. So, not quite sure I understand. I can't tell if do this sleep. Link triggers, cruise, S-Jet. So, it seems to be that the MiG won't do anything until until you do something to trigger it, which makes sense. The problem being the trigger is time-based and or location-based. which is annoying. So I think it's the fact, maybe that's what it is. So the fact that I took all my units and I attacked them super quick, got into here, which triggered the MiG, which then made it so that he would never stop. So if I took my units and I went to the left, destroyed this base, or at least like captured it, and then sent my guys down, landed, destroyed it, and then moved over here and destroyed this base, maybe that's the proper way to do it. If only I'd known. That's frustrating. That is that's frustrating. Volkoy and Volkov and Chitskoy, super fun map. Of a warm respite from a nice respite from the last mission. Not much to really say about it. It's a super basic map. Just go around, like progress, and then eventually you get to Tanya, kill Tanya, among other things, destroy the tech center. These guns go down, and then same old. Just destroy the critical building. Top of the World, the map where I missed everything, and I literally never knew this was a friggin' option. I'd never seen this before. This is like, I see trees, and I'm like, oh, I'm sure this is a cliff, and then you see the cliff extend downwards, and you're like, oh yeah, why would I ever go this way? It's blocked. Like, that obviously must follow. So I always went this left side. Which I guess, that's actually much harder. Left is actually much, much harder. Because on the left side, you could just advance, take out these AA guns, and then you're good to go. You'd never have to worry about AA. Although at the same time, going right means absolutely nothing because of this. And what's the purpose of this for? Why is the bridge there? And if you lose these two buildings, you lose. When are you going to get attacked? Okay, I need to check all these triggers. Or at least some of the triggers. Yeah, you can see all the different timers on stuff. So for whatever reason, if certain units die, it also destroys a building. That doesn't make sense. But we can see that after a certain amount of time, so 394. Maybe it's 3,940 seconds. Which makes... How much would that be? Whatever. Yeah, that's actually crazy. I've never seen these parts. Create team infantry. Create reveal around waypoint 11. Reinforce team. Alright, where's 11? Where is waypoint 11? I don't get it. Where's 11? I'm missing something here. I'm either blind or stupid. Or both. Oh, okay. Duh, from the building. Okay. Team types. Infantry 1. So if you enter, it gives more. A general comes out. And then he moves to waypoint 12. And then he attacks stuff. Okay? $11 guys show up. What? Okay, sure. C1 and 3 are obviously going to be so two destroyers show up, move to waypoint 2 or 5 or 6, and then move to 3 and 5. So if you go the right way, that's... Wow, okay. What about Rev 2, which is obviously just a reveal, but reveal around waypoint 7 and 8. Oh, right, okay, the bridge. But what does that matter? You can't get there. Trigger Det 1 and 2. Destroy attached building, which is linked to boom. If... Okay, so you can destroy the bridge. I'm not sure how that's important to anything, but sure. Okay. What's reveal 1? Because it happens at literally the end. 16 and 17. This is literally the end. What are you supposed to reveal to me? You're revealing its base. Who cares? Why? Shouldn't you just show that from the beginning? I'm sorry. I'm blown away by this. I'm blown away by power plants in the middle of nowhere that serve no purpose. Sure, the gap generator. Who cares? You can just shoot with it. You can shoot without the gap generator. It doesn't matter. I'm just blown away. Paradox equation. This one super nothing to talk about. Super powered building or not buildings, but units. Disappointing end. But I absolutely love what they did with how units play out. I like tanks, medium tanks, like all the changes. They're not as broken as Nuke Dog, which is sad because I really like Nuke Dog. But there's at the same time there's just nothing you can say about it. And then what? Nuclear escalation? It's more fuel air bomb, is I'm pretty sure what they call it. But regardless, this is just a tough map in the sense that like doing anything is tough. You don't have like a good area to build, and I'm always worried that fuel air bomb will show up and just nuke my entire base. But yeah, I don't know. This mission is another one that's like there's not much to really talk about. I kind of go over everything in the video for it, so there's nothing like hidden or anything. The only thing really is just like there's this one civilian and this village, and it's strange that the civilians are counted as good guys, even though they should be neutral. And my win condition, if I can find it, is destroy all good guys. So yeah, you have to kill the civilians. Yeah, sure. I don't get why, but whatever. Shock therapy, first mission in the Aftermath campaign for the Soviets, and I feel like Aftermath just does a much better job at introducing new units and options, like things to do. And this one is I actually really like it because it's so freeform. You can go in any direction you want, and you're basically completing objectives. So it's really nice. Unfortunately, there's not much for me to really talk about just because I saw everything in the map, in the video, and the map's rather small, so there's not much exploring to do. Test Drive, another fun one. Although I feel like this is more related to a... like this would be more suitable as like a Tiberian Dawn level, just because of the stealth tank that we get. So stealth tank or the phase transporter or whatever they call it is a dumb name. We saw what it does. You have to be careful with it with movement because it can get spotted if you're close enough to something. More just it's an interesting map. I just don't like the mop up on it, which I think I get screwed over because, as always, there's a couple units on the map that are just like super well hidden. At least to my aging eyes, and yeah, you spend more time on it doing. You spend more time on it like just cleaning up a map than doing objectives and stuff. Let's Make a Steel, which actually would make more sense if I want to say this is actually the one I played before the previous map we just looked at. I can't remember. It doesn't really make sense that you would do this mission and then the phase transporter, because this is you stealing it. Or at least something that looks like it. It's strange that they don't have, yeah, I forget they don't have sprites. They just have the nameplates. That's why we see the nameplates. Very, very basic indoor map. The only real tough part, because you have Volkov and Chitskoi, who they're not as good as we previously saw them, which sucks. But the only real tough part is getting the vehicle to get to the end, just because of the chrono tanks and other tanks that we see, which are rather annoying. I figure it might be easier if you end up having like the shock units and all that, like these extra units, but at the same time, I don't feel like they really would add anything, so you're not really losing anything by not saving them. Testing grounds, man, I remember absolutely zero of this mission. Did you get Tesla coils, right? I think. Shit. What? This is sad. Like, I don't remember, this is the most bland level, I think. I don't remember, anything in this map, which, I mean, it's probably for the best. Build up your forces and move north. You'll get attacked from this area, whatever. I think that's the only problem, is that this map is bland when it comes to, because long time ago, which won't be that long for right now when I'm giving this commentary, it was probably 6 days ago or whatever, but I remember giving high praise to Soviet missions. I still think that's true. As much as I complained about the Soviet expansion map, Legacy of Tesla, with the nukes, as much as I dislike that one, for just how hard it feels like I made that hard on myself rather than the map's pure design. The testing grounds is literally it's bland. We can take this map, I think, as a good example. There's not much to this map. It's rather small. You're not building a base. This is true. However, it's still tough enough and interesting enough with the triggers that it has for what you're doing. The previous map just, I don't know, it's just nothing really for me to say. This one, as we saw, we have to destroy the revolutionaries, or the rebels, from getting what they want. It's the first time we see the awesome missile subs. We saw the advanced tactical sub, ATS, I think they called it, in the first Counter-Strike mission. But this is the missile sub, which is different. It doesn't launch a nuke. It's not a torpedo. It is actual missiles that are, I guess, surface to surface, or surface to air, I think, even. But they're awesome. They have a huge range, and it's if you could use them all the time, people would, because they're awesome. They're better than cruisers, basically, in almost every way. Don't drink the water. I think I saw this bottom left island at the end, which I could never get to, so I never bothered. You don't get any air units, as far as I recall, so you can't ever go there, which is dumb. Why build this area if you can't go there? I'm a stickler for that sort of that design, especially when there's a heal crate here I can just make out, and there's 2 money crates. That's kind of just a tease. I actually, probably one of the missions I played for the start alone all the time. Just because, walking up here, it's a little bit of a challenge. You're not given a ton of units, but getting the truck to the water and then having, you can just see it progress slowly. You see the effects, and that eventually takes out the base. So you really get that feeling that there's incremental progress to the objective that you just completed, and it's, I don't know, as a kid I always loved that, just to see the how it affected all the units there. I think I cheesed this mission with I think this was the one I was like, I'll just use air power, and I just used it a lot. I will most likely have sped up that video a lot just to cut down on stuff. But yeah, again, interesting in that there's a bridge that's almost destroyed, so you kind of have to be careful. And if you ever want to like fight back and protect your harvesters, you either have to go up to like waypoint 22 and set up defensive line there, or accept that your harvesters will get damaged, wait for them to cross over, and then destroy any allied units, just so that you don't lose the bridge and whatever. Because obviously, if you have harvesters there and the bridge gets blown up, it's even worse than just losing the harvesters. Brothers in Arms, which is actually a really interesting level, just like the start, flipping the Soviet like structure on you with giving you a spy and having to listen in on a conversation. Nice use of like text and stuff, but ultimately the map is very small, so there's not much to really talk about other than the special interactions that they have with the characters, which in a way, I kind of wish there was a little bit more of, because there's not many opportunities for the game to just try to build on that. Deus Ex Machina is another one which is crazy, to say the least. I think this is the mission I had the most difficulty on, just because of how long it took, but I haven't edited it yet, so I might be talking out of my butt. Yeah, it goes well in my favor, thankfully, but could easily have been redone just because of the triggers, which I think are interesting. And it's nice that Aftermath gave Monster Tank Madness with monster tanks just going around and destroying everything. And I like the idea that Volkov's captured or whatever, and now he might be going crazy if you don't do it properly. I believe there's a trigger that gives you Volkov, but I forget. Yeah, I think it's this VOLF, VolF. It's either VolF or VolG, I believe. Either one. So that's Vol B and Vol C. Let's see what those team types do. Yeah. Okay. So actually, Vol B and Vol C are both the same. But I believe. So one is that one basically what happens. The Vol A, what happens is, I think I understand these ones. So, the Chits is weird. I don't think I've ever seen this one happen, though. Chitskoi. You can have a Badger Bomber come in and drop Chitskois? Oh man, that pisses me off. I wish I knew that. I would have totally loved to see a Badger Bomber come in with 5 dogs. Maybe it has to do with capturing like all the radars. Anyways, point is that the first one, basically, Volkov goes to waypoint 16, which is right next to 15 in the War Factory, bottom of the screen. And he just doesn't do anything. He powers down. Then you've got one where the second one, Vol B, I believe, is where he goes crazy, and that's the one that was seen in the video. He goes crazy, and that's why he's charging toward target and ignoring distractions. He goes nuts and he destroys everything, but he doesn't really pay attention to what he's doing, so he just runs up to whatever his new target is and destroys it. And I believe Vol C is where he becomes... He ends up being on your side and then just hunts everybody. Like, you can't... because you're Soviet and he's Ukraine, he's like a different team. And he kills everything, but, you still can't control him. I think that's how that works. Again, if somebody knows... I haven't reiterated this in a while, I guess, but if somebody knows the rules, triggers, and all that, I would love a breakdown to help me understand. But I'm pretty sure, and just like correct me on any mistakes. I'm fairly certain that's how it goes, though. Grunyev Revolution is one that unfortunately I feel stopped too early. The base up here is kind of interesting. I never saw the full base, so I never knew it had the Tesla coil gap generator, 2 construction yards, and the iron curtain. Weird that there's 2 construction yards, especially since you never see. Maybe this one builds the naval yard, but I don't remember seeing it in a different color, so I don't know. There's also 2 triggers for end A, which is weird. I wonder technically, because the way, obviously if you watch the video, the way I beat it was that I managed to get some guys to spawn, and then they all got mad at me, and then I blew them all up. And I still don't really know why. Yeah, I don't know. So, end A. So, after a certain amount of time, and you enter here, it activates global set 7. And if we go up here, we see global set 7. So if global is set 7, which is what end A does, and there's been 50 seconds, so I guess that's just there, so it doesn't trigger right off the bat. Global set 9, which was not that. I'm confused. See, this is my problem, is that I don't fully understand. I don't fully understand the rules, so I'm kind of left struggling a little bit with what can or cannot be done by the game. I mean, suffice to say that I know for sure. That's cool. I never know. Obviously, this makes sense. Seeing this and thinking about it, but I never realized that they were built you could specifically order them to attack power facilities. Badger bombers, mobile radar jammer, something we never get to see or never really see. Not that it's super important, and I still don't. I know somebody said mobile radar jammers have an attack, but I don't believe it. I think my problem too is that I don't recall seeing it in the. Damn it! You can't even search in this. I was gonna check because I know in the rules the actual rules file you can check it. I'm pretty sure it does not have an attack, despite what people say. Especially since the manual does not allude to it. No, that's not what I'm going to do. Team types. So, we know that there is a bunch of mammoth tanks that show up. I just don't recall which one. It's obviously not the civilian ones, because the civilian ones was whatever. Oh, they do get a cruiser. Huh. So the naval yard is attributed to the green, or I guess light green, or teal construction yard, and then they build the naval port, and then the naval yard builds the cruiser. Right. So win B. So these guys come in, Stalin 2 and Stalin 1, and they activate, or they can trigger win B. But what is win A? So, okay. What? Alright. So, for whatever reason, if you destroy all of Stalin's stuff, which for whatever reason they attacked me, I guess there's just something where maybe there's a text portion that I missed. And hopefully when I record the audio for this level, I'll see it. Maybe it's that I didn't destroy the houses or whatever. because they are owned by the enemy. Maybe it's because I didn't destroy them, and like I didn't destroy this base and like these guys fast enough, and so like the vehicles were all pissed off at me because I was defending them or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for all the maps. There's nothing else. So all the other maps are all just multiplayer. So I mean, I can check them over and over and over again. But honestly, there's nothing to be 100% honest. I don't think any of these multiplayer maps are truly interesting. They are from, I guess, a balance point of view and just like how everything is built up. For example, like all the gems here versus the paltry field on the bottom. So you're much better off having a base up top, etc., etc. All the cliffs and stuff. They're interesting from that point of view, but that's about it. Crates can show up if the option is set, but it's random as to where they appear, and their effect is also random. So you might have a chrono quake or whatever the hell that's supposed to be, the thing I never saw ever once in my life, or like nukes and other stuff. So it's just not something that I don't think is particularly interesting. So, I mean, I think I've been rambling for almost 3 hours now. I hope you, the viewer, really enjoyed this. I hope I was able to show off enough of the various maps for you to at least get a decent idea as to how all the maps look, especially the variants, because I mean, that's what it is. And also just to see like how these various missions are built. Where bases start off with, for example, or maybe like other triggers that might be just a little undefined for people like you or me that dabble in editors but don't fully understand them. So anyways, again, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.